You're listening to the Franchise Freedom Podcast with Giuseppe Grammatico.
Okay, and welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, and wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. As you know, Freedom Podcast is for corporate exec to experience time and financial choice, other vehicles and business ownership. And today we have a very special guest. And before we introduce our new guest here, Neil Twa, a little bit of a background. Neil is the co-founder and CEO of Voltage Digital Marketing. He has been launching and operating growing and private label e-commerce businesses for the last 9+ years. As of today, he and his clients have sold over $100 million plus in physical products, primarily through the Amazon FBA sales channel. Neil shares his blueprint for how to build an online business that can generate a passive, almost automated six-figure income in just 12 to 18 months. And how to set up the business for potentially millions in sales within 18 to 24 months through a pay-as-you-profit, skin-in-the-game model of consulting plus performance-driven business mentoring. I believe, or Neil believes, that with the guidance and the right tools, it is possible to be successful with an Amazon FBA. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. That was a little bit of your bio. How did you get into the current business you're in today?
Yeah, well, I won't bore you guys with a super long story or anything that my mom might find interesting. But in simple terms, I found my way into e-com after a major need. I had a business and lead generation mobile marketing business and got heavily invested into that, which led me to an amazing opportunity that turned out to be a bankruptcy in the making. I just didn't realize it because I'd leveraged myself in too far. And you know, sometimes you make mistakes in business, and that happened. So I needed a way to kind of, back against the wall. What was I going to do? I kind of went back to my core skill set of lead generation and finding, things to sell, affiliate marketing or otherwise. And someone said, hey, why don't you look at the physical products world? Why don't you consider more of e-commerce? Why don't you take that skill set and try to apply it to more brand building, which I hadn't been doing to that point. And that led me to kind of discovering the early stages of Amazon. Amazon had bought a company called FBA, or Fulfilled by Amazon. It's actually a separate company. And they purchased them somewhere around 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in there, if memory serves me correctly, to help with last mile fulfillment and delivery of their products. And they had started to market it out to the world as, get your business started on Amazon. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I had a friend show me a little bit of the ropes, and he was selling products on Amazon. And so around 2011, I started to just flip products for profit just to see how it works. I'd sign up a seller account and went crazy. And I realized, wow, this thing actually works. And it's nothing like eBay. I wasn't having to ship the products. I'd send them to Amazon, and Amazon would send them to the customer. And I thought, okay, there's got to be something to scaling this. There's got to be some way to make a business out of this. And I'm starting to make money with it. And, it's starting to fix some of those problems that I had in business in the past. And I thought, okay, there's got to be more to this. So by 2012, I started launching brands, specifically brands, trademarked brands. And when I realized that the power of that organic marketing and the brand recognition that Amazon was giving me by putting my brand in their ecosystem, it was kind of game over at that point. It was literally just launch scale, borrow capital, get as much as we could and get as much product launched. And it just went crazy from there. I recognized something that I hadn't understood because of my background and leveraging people and management consulting and, systems and staffing and all this heavy burden stuff in my business. That Amazon, and starting that business on there, allowed me all kinds of different freedoms I hadn't experienced before. I got to spend more time with my family. I was actually working less hours. I got to hang out with and do more. I actually made more money working a lot less with that infrastructure. And that was a huge upside. We could take vacations, and all of a sudden, money was just flowing like water. And it created just a tremendous opportunity, so much so that literally now I'll be this coming, I think, April-ish or so, I'll be 10 years into starting businesses on the Amazon FBA channel.
Yeah, that's a success story. Not too many businesses pass. What is it, year 1 or year 2? I forget the exact
80% fail in less than 5 years. Yeah, they don't understand growth and scale. So there are 4 pillars I think it's important to understand here that I kind of discovered in my experiences, my life challenges, the need for that bankruptcy, which was a terrible loss, if you will, but it's not the worst thing that could happen to you in the world of business. And then just kind of rediscovering what that opportunity would look like. And that was number one, profitability. I never really focused as much on profitability as I did when in an e-commerce business model. When you're putting money into physical products, you really need to make sure they're profitable. A lot of not guessing, but trying to figure out a process by which I could train my brain, train my business, train people to recognize those good products and, know with 80% confidence when they went to market before I even purchased a unit that they were going to be successful somehow in the market. What I was looking for was what success level each one of those would attain. Not that they wouldn't sell, but how much would they sell and which ones would sell why. And so we really started to evolve that so we could scale it as a business and started to get into the numbers. So the pillars of profitability and growth and scale and exit have become the foundation of what we do. The product's got to be profitable. We got to see growth and upside potential for them in the market and be competitive in the market with them. And we need to see the ability to scale them both, vertically into the niche we're working on and the solution we're trying to solve for that customer. And then horizontally in the marketplace too, which could take us out into different avatars or different verticals of brand that support that same primary market. And then, of course, the exit potential. These businesses are worth a lot more in the end than at any time during the business building phase. And that's one of the biggest things I discovered in the last 4 or 5 years in this is that with the e-com adoption of this model and, of course, COVID basically creating an enormous online adoption for e-com, that has led to some tremendous things happening. Okay. Over what was the last check? 18 billion. Last check has been deployed into purchasing Amazon FBA channels only. So it's legitimized it as a business model. A couple of major exits from brands that originated on Amazon. They went out to retail and other distributions and then exited because they started on Amazon. And I'm talking about, $500 to $1 billion sales. Really helped legitimize the platform and the marketing of e-commerce to start off with Amazon. And then just creating more of a lifestyle driven business is a huge opportunity there too. Because again, I don't need warehouses anymore. I had a warehouse. 21,000 square feet. I don't need employees to do this. I had 12 of them in the past. And I don't need to flip products for profit. I build scale and brand into the intrinsic value of the company, giving it a big upside potential for exit, right? And being able to put all those foundations in place as a part of this model, which has been a fantastic thing to watch.
And so, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, this is one area where in the franchising world, you don't hear e-commerce. You don't see as much e-commerce. It's almost like an add-on. So maybe something in the health and beauty space that has an e-commerce aspect of it. So it's not as common, similar to a franchise in that, you're getting the support structure there.
But you got to understand something about that. Not to cut you off, just to clarify that, because literally at this moment in time, I'm not sure when this is going to get released, but right now, just after Black Friday, and Cyber Monday, Amazon's third-party sellers did over $1 billion in sales. That's a record. And the e-commerce economy this quarter has outpaced all other so far in terms of sales. It's now record sales this year. And the other major third thing that just happened, which may not seem significant if you're listening to this and don't understand the nuances, but the mobile sales overtook desktop this year. So more people bought on their mobile phone, more people bought more than ever, and Amazon third-party sellers made more than ever this year.
I believe it. Just tracking where, on my end, where people view their podcasts and where they're watching things, and it's on that phone. So it's less and less off the laptop and on the mobile device. So what is, what the service offering? How do you help people? So, I guess what is the I want to talk about the kind of that process. Where does someone start, or if they're interested in looking at e-commerce?
Well, first you need to understand if I'm going to deploy capital into any of these things, whether it's I might want to put it in real estate, or I might want to put it in Wall Street, or I want to put it somewhere else. E-commerce, people don't normally think that I deploy capital into a physical product. They think of it as more of a virtual thing. Now, while we sell on Amazon and it has obviously mobile device and there's a virtual storefront, it is a physical product, a tangible product that we're actually purchasing. So we're taking cash that's, losing 1% a month in the marketplace. And instead of putting it in real estate or Wall Street or other places, we're deploying it into physical product capital that's worth 5 to 10 times what we bought it for on in the marketplace. And we'll sell 5 to 10 times more on Amazon. So I look at that as an investment. So what does that investment translate to? For people who are listening, for us, it's been 10 to 15% average returns every year. So in terms of being able to control the market, control the inventory, control the pricing and structure of the business and getting those kinds of return, it's just better for us to put money into that than those other mechanisms. And for that, there's a process that needs to be followed. There's a go-to-market process. There's a branding process. There's some things that have to occur strategically and tactically in order to make this work. And sometimes people get turned off by that, right? They might turn off because they're like, well, look, I don't necessarily have the time. I need something that's passive. And, passive is a funny word that's been tossed around in marketing too much. I refer to it as almost automated income, because in our world for this, in having the value of the product and the deployment of capital, and of course, the time involved, if I can run a multi-seven-figure business for 10 to 15 hours a week with no employees and no warehouse, all right, with unlimited upside potential, I think that's a pretty big win. And so for that reason, we deploy a game plan to take people out over 12 months and grow this, all right, through profitability, but growth, as I mentioned. So growth beyond 12 to 24 months looks like making it past 7 figures on Amazon's channel first, and then opening multiple sales channels of growth to lower risk, but increase upside potential. And then, of course, a potential exit after 24 months when the business matures. That means that I could sell this company and make back the money that would take me 2 years to get. And, we know economics 101, inflation, right, is a transitory state. And because of that, money is worth more today than it is tomorrow. So for that reason, I'm going to sell that company. So I'm not even going to wait for it to go out to 4 to 5 years where 80% of the companies fail. I'm going to sell that company, and I'm going to take all that money in dollars and do what with it? I'm going to redeploy it back into the marketplace with faster capital expenditure and better knowledge. I'm going to do it quicker, and I'm going to get a whole lot better at it. And so our model of showing people how to build with the exit in mind is what we call the platinum principle. And like pulling your golden parachute, in this instance, you can pull your parachute whenever you want. And you pull it in the control mechanism you deployed. And it goes with a major component, which a lot of people have. And you and I were joking about it a minute ago. What the hell do I sell? That all sounds really great, Neil. And I love to get the numbers, but you're talking about inventory. I don't even know what am I selling? Am I selling like cardboard boxes or bike seats or widgets or what? And that's one of the things we train people to understand. But I also skip that process. Like I skip the product research and I take them to the products that are successful. I want them to build a successful business because my model is to exit, build, and scale these businesses as well as acquire them. So I'm looking to get people through this process for the specific goal of exiting it and being the broker of record, like a real estate deal where we make a condition, because the sale of the business is worth way more than any coaching fees that I could charge you. So my game is to build a pipeline of people who are in my network, who become CEO operators, who can then repeat this process and do it over and over again. And it's one path of pipeline for sales and acquisition that I use within the M&A side. So I want to give everybody the resources. I treat it almost like a franchise model. I don't take ownership in their company. That's not the point. The point is to get them to the exit. We do help them on a performance mechanism. So we hold back some cash and say, hey, you're not going to get paid this bonus until we actually hit this metric. So there's a performance aspect to working with each person. And then we want to see them scale to a minimum. Okay. We want to see them hit a minimum base case of 100K in net profits in 12 months. All right. That is just considered to be first year base case. Can be exceeded? Absolutely. For those of you who are like, well, I need to make 100K or I want to do 100K a month. That's fine. We all want to do that, but we got to walk before we run, right? So we're going to coach you to that learning and earning period where you get your first products in the market and you get this knowledge base increased and you learn how to deploy capital correctly and you understand a 90-day cash flow for e-com and you understand how money is and coming in and money's coming out. And then you get very smarter. That sounds more smarter. Gotta be careful with that. You get to be more smarter. You get to be better, knowledgeable, more knowledgeable, and how to deploy your cash faster, right? Because you sell more products on Amazon and e-com, you make more money. That's basically the equation. And so there's a process by which we get that so that growth and scale become a part of the natural business growth. And then obviously exit helps us to continue the scalability and value of those companies.
And so how does someone know, or how do you know someone is the right fit? So I know you said through the network. So what kind of are the requirements?
Well, capitalization, of course, that's an obvious one. You obviously need to have the capital to run one of these companies. And look, here's how I look at it from an investment standpoint. If I'm going to be able to deploy capital of 50 to 100K in 1 year somewhere for a percentage of return annualized, then I want to see at least that or double that back. So when we go out into the market, we're looking to build a company that will return $100,000 to $200,000 in net profits within that 12-month period. If I can put that money in and see growth and upside potential and return that capital and annualize that, then I think that's a huge win. What I don't want to do is take out 50 or 100K and see 4K a month coming back in. That's not really sexy. What I want to see is a business that has 10, 20, 30, 50, or a path to 100K a month in profits as I'm growing and scaling that brand, right? So I want to make sure that people are capable of deploying the capital, but also understanding the fundamentals of the business. While we start with Amazon FBA, that is not where it ends.
Right.
You need to understand some of these fundamental principles. You need to know the difference between gross margin, gross profit, and net profit. You need to understand how capitalization for inventory works versus anything else you've done. But we teach that knowledge for folks, even who have zero experience, right? How to become the hero in this story. Because again, I want them to be trained as a CEO operator. I want them to understand how to become successful at building and growing this, because they become a part of my network. And that's one of the major reasons why I even do this. We run our own brands, we scale our own brands, we launch and exit our own and acquire companies. But I take along a small group of people every month in a very focused, very one-on-one coaching group mastermind to bring them through mentorship and advisory and continue through that process so they're a part of our long-term network.
We hope you're enjoying the show. This episode of Franchise Freedom is brought to you by the SMBpodcastnetwork.com. The network is a collection of podcasts and shows from around the internet, which focus on bringing you interviews with amazing guests who share actionable advice, ideas, and information for small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs. Visit www.smbpodcastnetwork.com to find more great shows and easily subscribe to be notified of new episodes. It's a great way to discover quality content. If you discovered us today via the network, then I hope you're enjoying the show and will consider subscribing directly so you never miss any of our great episodes. Now back to the show. Okay, and we are back. Thanks for tuning in today. We are with Neil Twa. Neil, so we talked about e-commerce and we talked about kind of who the right fit is. So where does someone start? They had an interest in e-commerce, and I just had a guest early today from Profit First, and they said, you know what? Definitely want to read the book or definitely want to listen to the first few episodes of that specific podcast just to get up to speed. Where do you recommend someone that has an interest, not sure what direction they want to move in? Where do you recommend they kind of start, or do they reach out to you directly?
Yep. So obviously there's fundamentals of this. There's shifts that we mentioned. There's what do I sell? So being trained to actually understand what do I sell in this environment and what do I do to train my brain to start seeing those products as a seller, not a consumer. And then how do I understand the numbers? Like how do 8-figure sellers and the 1% of the sellers actually go out and evaluate these products by the numbers to ensure their profitability before launching it? That's a big one. And of course, market and competition is a big one. How do I know I'm going to compete? How do I compete properly and create a brand? I've never created a brand, but how do I do that in such a way that I can compete against market or sellers that are already there? We do by innovation, not invention. So there are ways to innovate products very easily that create value added and are with products that are already selling in the market. So again, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, but then also understanding this ecosystem we go to first, this Amazon ecosystem. It's like a river, but it's a tree of information, if you will. And in it, there's a current of product sales, the one current everybody wants to get into. How do I actually get into that? How do I take advantage of that traffic? With this platform, we'd love to take new sellers there because it answers the biggest question about eyeballs on the offer. How do I actually get people to see? It's one thing to set up a franchise or put up a lemonade stand somewhere and then hope you get enough cars to drive by who actually come into your store. Well, with 100 to 200 million people every month coming to Amazon to buy products, you're in front of the traffic. It is there. And it's how we get in front of it that's important. So we make sure people understand that. So those shifts, those breaks, those things you need to do to learn, earn, and do this. I do a free 3-part workshop that everybody can get if they go to voltagedm.com /free workshop. We'll put it in the notes or make sure everybody gets it, but voltagedm.com /free workshop is a 3-part series delivered in email. Each topic of those 5 is covered in an hour with templates, information, and training to get you started to look and determine your first product. First product evaluation, first understanding, answering that question, what the hell do I sell in this market? Transitions through that entire workshop. It's yours for free. It'll show you how we teach, how we learn, and then how we earn. And then there's just a quick invite to contact me and determine whether or not you think this is something that you think you would be good at. And we'll have a quick call and we'll go through a little bit of application process. And I'll ask you some questions to qualify and make sure that we're a good fit. I don't want anybody to join who I don't feel is a good fit. So if I don't think that this is right for you, I'm going to turn you down. No disrespect. But I want to make sure that everybody's a good fit for the success of this. So that's there. It's a couple $1,000s worth of training and templates and other stuff that everybody here listening to this can get for free.
So that's voltagedm.com /free workshop. That's the website. We're going to put that in the show notes. And as you mentioned, after going through the class, then they kind of set up that right fit conversation to make
Correct.
sure.
Discovery call.
Discovery call. Yep. Discovery call. Yep. We do the same thing because sometimes it's information gathering, and sometimes, you know what, I always tell people, sometimes it's the right fit. But timing maybe not be right. In some
timing is a big importance, and also understanding the concepts of what FBA and other acronyms and things mean, to just understand if it's something you think you would feel like you would enjoy, or something you feel like, hey, you know what, I could sort of do this. I've been researching it for 3 to 4 months or 3 to 6 years, and I've been wondering how to get involved.
Right.
This is going to be a mechanism that will show you and kind of help qualify you through what we train on. And so you'll feel a little more confident about contacting us once you understand the concepts that we're laying out there.
What would you say would be the minimum financial requirements you have? Whether you have a net worth, liquidity, what's the minimum investment? Is there anything you can share? If not, then I'll leave that for.
No, absolutely. I want people to understand I'm okay to qualify it, because I want them to have 2 major components of qualification for this. It's knowledge and capital. Okay.
Right.
Having the right knowledge of how to deploy your capital, and then having the right amount of capital to deploy it correctly. The third major fail point most people can get into is if they have more money but don't want to learn, then sometimes they make bigger mistakes with their money. And I want to kind of avoid that, right? So it is the knowledge, capital, and capitalization. 50K is a minimum requirement to go between the knowledge and of yourself, and investment in yourself, as well as investment in the business, is going to be required to take your first product and brand out to market in year 1. Okay. So you may deploy more capital later on, but it's going to be strategically deployed to what is working. We're not guessing. We're following a process. Okay. So between our fees to work with us for a year and the capital deployed into the business, 50K is a minimum that you're going to need to get this e-commerce business off the ground successfully, with the right knowledge and the right capitalization. So you have a competitive advantage, you have market upside potential, and you have growth capable of reaching 7 figures, because that's what we're shooting for together.
I like that. No, I definitely encourage everyone to check out the site, the free workshop. Again, we'll include everything in the show notes, and awesome. There's direct access to Neil should you have any questions or would like to have that intro call. Economy, markets. I used to work on the investment side. Everything is cyclical, right? What goes up must come down, and what's down will go up. I jokingly say it's just constant, and it's we talk about not timing the market, or when is the perfect time. The perfect time, I always say, is now. Obviously, maybe you don't want to be in every business per se, or you need to pivot your business. Like with COVID, a lot of our business coaches went from and tutoring franchises went from in person to virtual, and there were some other pivots as to how they can expand their businesses. So with everything going on, I mean, what happened with COVID? Everyone was buying online. So I don't see that trend slowing down. Maybe the devices they use, right? From
devices have changed. Absolutely.
So what does this future look like? Is it just growing, but people are going to be ordering at a different capacity, different ways of ordering? Like what do you kind of see?
Yeah, that is always cyclical. The product type or time of year, or trending products. There are, of course, evergreen, or what we call blue sky products that are kind of always in demand, always in need, and even in a changing inflationary market or a cyclical market that may have a bit of recession in it, possibly this next year or whatnot. Those are products that are still going to be bought. They're still in need. And so part of that analysis we do is to determine that competition. And competition is to try to look into the future just a little bit in our crystal ball and say, do we see this product being more evergreen? Do we see this product being in demand next year with changing in market? And then we can adapt. We can adapt current products to adjust to market trends. We can launch new products that are in demand for market trends. And that's one of the beauties of e-commerce, is why I know it is not something that is going to go away. I know it has had a major adoption curve in the last 4 years. And I don't need to prove that to you. The numbers prove it to everybody. With a record-breaking year of sales, my people who got in last year, who questioned whether or not this was good, are extremely happy now that they are involved in it and looking forward to the coming years. There will be a continued need for physical products. Right. And that is a asset that you have control of, because it is an inventory that you own. And that is one of the beauties I love about this. It's not a purely informational play. So if you understand the virtual and information, then you understand the benefit of that. It is, again, a lifestyle opportunity. I live on 48 years in the country. I homeschool my girls. I'm here all the time. I have a business that runs very well without all that other infrastructure requirements. I can go take a 4-week vacation if I want, and my business doesn't stop. Right. It's important for you to understand some of those important things. I think we found that in a lot of ways in the last few years with all the stuff that happened and how restrictive it was for family and other things. where we live and the way we do our business, it wasn't as big of a road bump for us. Mm-hmm. So if those changes come and that's something you're interested in, that's kind of what I'm showing people inside of my group.
That's awesome. No, I really appreciate it. Anything we did not cover today you like to share?
Let's cover the last part, which is, hey, look, if I get involved in this and it's profitable and I'm making money along the way and I do decide to exit, what could that exit look like? A big picture vision at the last moment here. Okay. We can just talk about that for a sec, because that is one of the big opportunities with this, the build and earn, learn, and exit. Okay. These businesses, Amazon only channels, will sell between 2.7 to up to 3.7x. Okay. Could get to 4 if you're up in the 25% net profit or the EBITDA, the profit bottom line of the business, and you could get a higher multiple. That's a channel only. We don't like to be Amazon channel locked, which means only one channel. So we'll always multi-channel, which means we're going to go to another marketplace. We're going to open a storefront. We're going to sell the products through other mechanisms. Could be retail, wholesale, or other mechanisms. With that added value comes an intellectual property valuation that is much higher at time of exit. So instead of just a 3 to 4 exit roughly on Amazon channel, you can see a 5 to 10x exit with e-commerce companies by opening a channels, email marketing, direct to consumer, retail, or other channels. Once the brand has matured past 7 figures, we have a saying here in the country. I like to tell people you can't ride 2 horses with one ass. So we're going to ride the Amazon horse until it gets to a certain level of sales and profitability, and then open multiple channels of profitability. And that increases the whole valuation of that company, which means the major profit at exit will look really good, especially if you get into the 5 to 10x range on your exit. And so to consider that in mind as an investment opportunity for this, as you're growing and profiting, there's that upside exit potential because of the kind of business model this is.
Like it. Well, I really appreciate it. As I mentioned, I've learned a lot in the last couple of conversations. Was on your show not too long ago, and when I don't know an area, not comfortable, I admit it. I'm not an expert in all areas, so e-commerce is definitely an area I'm learning more and more about. I think a majority of my education has been through Shark Tank over the past couple of years, listening to the guys. So, and I say that in all seriousness, just because it's not an area.
No, I respect that. Kevin Harrington's a partner in my portfolios division. Cool. He was the original Shark. And the podcast that's free for y'all to check out on my website was he and I talking about our business model and what he called the next as seen on TV, which is Amazon reaching the households and giving people kind of that infomercial view of the products through their mobile phones. And we talk about how that model can be exploited, which you can check out as well, which is an interesting podcast that kind of gives an overview.
And what was the name of your podcast?
That was a podcast number 11. It's if you go to voltagedm.com, you'll check it out. It's a free presentation that explains our model, which is a podcast we did that just talks about the business, answers some questions that we did with folks there, and gives you the overview of how we approach this model for business. And it's just the Shark Tank thing reminded me of that because we are, playing in the business, and there are a lot of sharks, but e-com has been a fun ride. And if anybody is wanting to take a look at it, I would take a serious look at it. I'm doing it for the next 10 years by myself, whether you do it or not.
Awesome.
I'm not getting out.
I appreciate it. And definitely we'll add everything to that show notes. So if you want to take a look at the free workshop, we'll put the links in there. Any questions, we'll put all of Neil's info there. So feel free to reach out right through the website. And Neil, I appreciate it again. It's been fun. I learned a lot. I'm sure we'll be talking more, and I encourage everyone to check out the workshop and let us know. Give us your comments, questions, anything you have. Comment on YouTube, send me out. Be more than glad to comment on every question we get. Till we see each other again.
Thanks for tuning in. Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways Giuseppe can help. 1. If you've ever considered owning a business of any kind, you owe it to yourself to get a copy of Giuseppe's book, Franchise Freedom. Download your free copy at ggthefranchiseguide.com/book. 2. Want to understand how successful executives make the transition from corporate to owning their own franchise? Join Giuseppe's next online presentation, Franchise Freedom: How to Escape the Corporate World and Have Financial and Time Freedom by Owning a Franchise, by going to ggthefranchiseguide.com/video. 3. Want to work with Giuseppe one-on-one to identify the right franchise opportunity for you, to navigate the process, and get plugged into experienced franchising advisors? Send him an email to gg@ggthefranchiseguide.com with one-on-one in the subject, and he'll send you all the details.